there's a lot more to it, is what I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot to expand on within these allegations, and
Yeah.
the thing is, like, the more information we get, the worse it gets. Like, it's not a situation where
Yeah.
like the more info we get, the better it gets. It's like the more that's revealed, the worse that things get over time, in my opinion. All right, chat. What do you guys want me to look at? I do have some stuff on my list of stuff I can go over. I have been wondering recently, is I'm Alex ever gonna respond? I tweeted this out. Do you guys think he's ever gonna respond? Is there? I don't think that there's any good response he could have, but is he ever gonna respond to this? Is he ever gonna say anything? I kind of doubt it. I can't imagine there's any good response he could give. Seems silly to me. Do you guys see that NextTaku got apparently dropped from this ordinary podcast? What's the rundown? Essentially, it seems like because of his prior loose associations with the Shadman, they're dropping Nux from the podcast.
The podcast is done. Yeah, podcast is done now.
Wait, what?
Yeah, the podcast is over. We are not filming the last episode. It's over.
Is that are you serious?
Yeah, we're not doing the podcast anymore. It's done.
Why?
We're supposed to film on Tuesday. Well, there's a couple reasons for it. A lot of that was obviously some of the Shad stuff too, because we were kind of sitting there. We're like, me and Caleb, we were just like, this is, I don't know, it's weird. The other thing was we just want to redo things, maybe like 2 months down the road or something, between each other, and that's kind of where we're at.
Kind of crazy, bro. Kind of crazy. I don't know, man. You know, I think there's a decent amount of stuff to criticize NextTaku for. Like, recently he had a really bad take, in my opinion, about at least with TikTok doxing someone. I don't think that was cool. And on top of that, I think the Shadman stuff should absolutely be called out. But I don't know if NextTaku is like evil. I could be wrong, but I don't know. It depends on how much he was a fan of Shadman. If he was like off to his shit. You know, there's levels to this shit, in my opinion. He walked it back, did he? Oh. Well, maybe this is not real then. I just saw this clip. Be real, this has been one of the best couple of months for drama content of all time. Oh, it absolutely has. It's been an amazing couple of months. I can't complain at all. There's been so much stuff to cover. Literally a never-ending onslaught of shit to go over. Like, I feel like just when you think it's like going to be over, because usually with drama stuff, there's like a high period and then a low period, a high period, low period. Like, you'll get a big story, you'll get some time with like nothing crazy going on. You get a big story, you get a time with nothing crazy going on. But now, like, every day there's a new crazy thing, right? I can't complain. You know, now some of the drama is more than other kinds of drama. Mr. Beast right now.
Jimmy, I tried to tell you that. I know, Chandler. I know. Right? Just get out. Okay. Hi, Jimmy. So you only sent me like $5.3 million last month instead of $6 million. I'm trying to go on vacation with Carl, so if you could just fix that. Also, what do you think about these new pronouns I'm trying out? Do you know what? Do you know what you are, Kris? It's Ava. Do you know what the fuck? Do you know what you are? Other than a man? Excuse me, I'm not. You're a liability, Kris. I'm building wells in Africa. Okay, I'm curing people's blindness, Kris. I'm God. And you with your bull. You with all your crap.
The idea of Mr. Beast misgendering Kris Tyson is really funny.
You're getting in the way. Jimmy, I don't know what to tell you. Okay, that's a gun. I didn't want it to turn out this way, Kris. I really didn't, but it's too much, man. You're doing too much. Two things are gonna happen. Or you're gonna go, or you're gonna disappear to never be heard from again. Okay? You can do anything. You could identify as a horse, a ladder. You could do just anything. Just do anything. Okay? Do whatever you want. Okay. But that's like 4 to 5 things at least.
God damn. God damn. That's a good video. Enjoyable. Shout out Dink Cube if you guys want to check out his channel. You can drop a sub. Apparently Gamma wants to call real quick about Kris Tyson stuff. I told him to give me a call. You guys know Gamma. He's made some decent videos we've seen on stream. Yo, what's up?
Before we begin, I just want to say, like, what's your conclusion so far on the Kris Tyson stuff? Like what have you like looked into? What have you concluded?
After seeing
I know
all
a little
of it?
Is well, yeah. What is yeah, basically.
What was my conclusion? So there's like a few parts to this, right? So like initially when I saw the Lolicon stuff, obviously I was like, that's super f***ed up, right? So that was like my initial reaction. And then there was another level of it, which was like the lava thing. And like initially, I think there wasn't enough proof for grooming, you know, to make that kind of claim. Upon getting the more Discord leaks, I think that's much more substantiated. Obviously, I think that's I can't argue with anyone who says that. And let me think. The sexual assault claim about Kris from that other trans person on Twitter seems pretty. I could be wrong, but it seems like even what they describe is not sexual. So that's like the three things.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's like kind of the three parts
so
of this.
so for the most part, the reason I ask is because like I kind of want to know like on what page you are, so that like so that this discussion can go somewhere like further than what other people are like currently talking about. Because like I ashamed as I am to say it, am unhealthily involved in this situation. I'm not sure if you watched my debate with Prism or not, right? But
oh,
like,
Prism
obviously,
is, yeah.
yeah, Prism is a moron, absolutely. Look, so because of Prism's stupid ass allegations, I felt personally motivated, especially because I'm such a big stickler on absolutism and informational integrity. I felt personally involved to look into this much more than I should. And as I was going through like ultimately because of how like hard on I am, as funny as that is to say, for absolute information, I wanted to like basically look at both sides of like the arguments for Kris Tyson. Like, is she a groomer? Is she not a groomer? Is she is she a is she not a blah 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 blah, right? And I was like, okay, so it's really hard to absolutely call her a groomer just because there's just not a lot of definite evidence for that. Some people would be morally some people would be morally driven to say yes, and I understand that, right? Yeah, go ahead.
I think the biggest problem with arguing with that thing right now is like the Discord leaks where they're linking like Shadman's website to a bunch of minors and like knowing they're minors. I think whether it was intentional from Kris or not, that level of irresponsibility, I think, has to be called out, and people are going to call that grooming, and I don't really blame them, honestly, at this moment. I don't at all.
Yeah.
Initially, I was more like skeptical because, even though I don't like Kris Tyson, it was like, okay, is this true? Is it not? I want to get the story right. But like after seeing everything I've seen so far, I feel like it's a somewhat valid claim, but you can, let me know what you think.
Look, no, we're pretty much in agreement. But I'm looking into expanding on that argument, on these arguments a lot more. Like, I want to give a reason for people to believe that Kris Tyson is a lolicon, which evidently she is. Because she's like indulged. Yeah, 1,000%. She's indulged in it. She talks about hentai all the time. She's always linking, and she's specifically like endorsing Shadman and asking for hentai on Twitter and
asking for like art of underage characters, clearly knowing what he was up to, like linking his website back then multiple times, like buying the art itself and putting it on the wall, like on Reddit commenting about like using VR chat for some really foul. Like, I think there's no denying that Kris Tyson is a lolicon in my opinion. That's absolutely disgusting.
So apart from the obvious, the obvious and the evident that we've already looked at in the past week, what I look into, what I aim to expand on, like what I want to talk about that a lot of people probably won't, as I've been noticing, is some people have, is that she cultivated an environment where minors can definitely potentially be exploited and inappropriately interact with each other. Like, looking through these logs, I've seen many instances where Kris definitely behaved in ways that he shouldn't have in an environment filled with children, right? Like, not to like be a moron or anything, but it's very obvious that exposing minors to is extremely bad, no matter which way you put it, right? It's extremely bad. But furthermore, Kris Tyson also had minors in this environment that were like sharing their Snapchat, talking about porn all the time, and like sending edgy memes to each other, even talking about potentially making gore in their like not safe for work channel, right? There's a bunch of that. But something that particularly stood out to me, and I'm about to send you these screenshots, is that a lot of the a lot of the time when Kris Tyson isn't there, or when like some of these people aren't there, minors are consistently like talking to each other in inappropriate fashions, which as like an adult you shouldn't be allowing there to be there, right? You shouldn't be as an adult, you shouldn't allow those type of conversations to take place. You shouldn't be allowing for any inappropriate behavior to happen at all, right? Like that is incredibly reckless, I want to say. Like, I don't even know how to put into words just how bad it is, but it's extremely bad. Let me find these screenshots really quick. I want you to get these. I'm gonna send them to you right now. This is one.
By the way, your mic is being a little bit inconsistent in volume. Do you mind just like trying to stay in the same place?
Yeah. Sorry.
You're good. Thank you.
Cordioids. Let me get the other one.
So I gotta this screenshot. Let's see this one.
I gotta sift through some.
So this one has Daddy Log saying, HH, okay, sending my nudes with an attachment. This next replier says, dang. Daddy Log says, guys, please don't show anyone. Zig says, I had to screenshot. Nathan says, that was very predictable. Daddy Log says, please don't show. Nathan says, disappointed, originally wasn't strong with this one. Zeg says, but you still fell for it. So Daddy Log says, I was going to send you hentai personally, but I don't want you to be weirded out. Nathan says, no, I didn't. Lamau. Daddy Log says, I suppose another time. Nathan says, oof. Zeg says, the only time you'd actually catch Nathan off guard is by sending actual nude pics because he'll be expecting a meme. Daddy Log says, true, but legally I can't do that. Okay, so what is what are you trying to show here?
Go to the next one and read that too. I'll tell you in a second.
I'm not advising you to actually do it. Lamau, when you turn 18, baby, makes Discord server as not safe for work channel 500 IQ. I made a Discord. I'm about cats. It's about cats. Ooh, easy legal workaround, says Nathan. LS Themo says, say you make news of yourself when you're 15 years old and you have these on your device so you're 18, will it still be illegal? Zeg says, yes, if they want to screw you over and someone sues you, they could label it as possession of CP. LS Themo says, oof. Daddy Log says, yeah, it's illegal to even take news of yourself just as a 15-year-old because even if they're of you and you don't send them, it's still CP. Zeg says, affirms that basically. Nathan says, it's possibly the dumbest shit I've heard. LS Themo says, I know. Zeg says, I know, but it's true. Nathan says, picture yourself. I doubt that's how it works. Okay,
so look. Ultimately, the argument that I want to make that is probably like the third worst thing that we could like criticize Kris Tyson for is, you know, that she cultivated an environment where minors were inappropriately messaging each other and where some adults were also inappropriately messaging minors. And ultimately, I feel like these two screenshots are extremely compelling to the argument that what Kris Tyson did, it more than likely cements the idea that she definitely to a higher degree. Like than we already know now, she definitely deserves to be held accountable for this, behavior, right? Like, you shouldn't be cultivating an environment where minors can talk like this to each other. Like sure, some would argue that this could happen regardless of Kris Tyson's involvement, but the fact of the matter is that Kris Tyson made this environment. She allowed people to talk in this way. She even endorsed it in some cases, and even encouraged people to send trap and stuff like that. She basically cultivated all of this behavior.
I mean, the thing is, part of it especially is obviously, minors will sex each other sometimes, right? When I was a minor, I was horny. I wanted to talk to other minors. Obviously, when I was, 16, I wanted to talk to 16-year-old girls, right? Part of the problem is that this is an environment where there's, first of all, minors who are allowed to share. There's adults who are allowed to share. And then there's potential sexting / relationships that can come of that. There's sexual discussions, and there's adults in power, in a position of power to control that and talk to them about it. And they're not shutting it down. They're interacting with them, and that's absolutely not normal.
Yeah. I don't know if you noticed as well, and it might be a little bit difficult to find these screenshots, but that person, Daddy Log, I believe is a 17-year-old girl. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. In another case, she was actually talking about sharing her Snapchat with these individuals, right? And even in some points, I believe Kris actually asked her to, they were talking about adding each other on Snapchat too. 17-year-old girl, obviously. There are some arguments that some people would make there. Ultimately, I aim to detract from some of these arguments because they're not morally acceptable, right? The main issue is that if some people are unwilling to call Kris Tyson a groomer, if some people are unwilling to call Kris Tyson a the absolute worst of it is that she did cultivate an environment that was absolutely reckless and harmful for minors, which it warrants the amount of admonishment and resentment that a lot of people are giving her. Right. A lot of people aren't really touching too much on that. They're looking at this at just, oh, she likes Lolly, she supported Shadbase, she talked to Lava, and that's it. But I believe that there is more than just beyond, just Lava, right? There's more than just beyond that. There's a lot more to it, is what I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot to expand on within these allegations, and the thing is, the more information we get, the worse it gets. It's not a situation where the more info we get, the better it gets. It's the more that's revealed, the worse the things get over time, in my opinion. And I shouldn't even have to say in my opinion, the worse things get definitively, objectively, I'd say on some level. Yeah. And it's just, it's horrible. It's horrible. And yeah, I mean, I can't imagine Kris Tyson ever coming back after this. And the thing is, stuff's still coming out. Who knows who may say something next,
Yeah. The reason I wanted to bring this to your attention is because I wanted someone to look at it from the perspective that I was looking at, so that there is more ways that we can cover the situation and make sure that Kris Tyson is absolutely like held accountable for her actions, right? Beyond just like the main stuff that people are focusing on. It definitely is a lot
The thing is,
worse.
how do you do that? Like, is legal action going to happen? I'd say it's probably unlikely.
Okay, there's something. This is gonna be incredibly irresponsible for me to say, but I'm gonna put it up just for thought, right? Just for idea, just like for just for the sake of talking about it and potentially having somebody clarify something. But as I was researching like how bad this actually was from a legal standpoint, there is something called, I want to say it's called dissemination, or let me search up the exact term so that I can make sure that I'm not just like speaking out my ass.
No, the thing is, I don't doubt that there's things that Kris did that are illegal. I just don't know if it's going to be punished by the law, is what I'm saying.
Oh,
Right? I don't know if
yeah,
it's going to
yeah,
be
yeah,
carried out. There's not a lot
yeah.
of doubt in my mind that there was illegal stuff going on. I just don't know if law
Mhm.
enforcement agencies are going to crack down on it. So that's the bigger question, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Ultimately, I really just want to I know you're writing a video on this. I'm currently making a video on this too. I'm gonna bring up a lot of this stuff. It's very hard to like get clarity. I wanted to talk to you about it so that I can get like more clarity myself. Hopefully, be like corrected on some things, right? If anybody had like an additional opinion to add, they're more than welcome, right? Like ultimately, like it's important to clarify as much of the misinformation and actual information that's going around, so that when videos come out and videos are surfacing, I mean, people aren't jumping to conclusions, and she's being accused justly for the that she actually did, which is, horrible. Like, no matter which way, you cannot like defend this person anymore, no matter what. And there's still people that are actively trying to defend her, which is just inconceivable at this point. Like, you can't defend her anymore. Like, there is so much that some people aren't looking at, which is significantly worse than
Has
than,
anyone
anything.
been like adamantly defending Kris Tyson?
I noticed that a couple of people that aren't particularly informed on the situation, based on like the arguments of, oh, it was just jokes, oh, it's Lolly, it's not a real person. There's some people that are making those arguments, and they are defending her for that because they just don't know the extent of how bad this shit
Right. I
actually
also
is.
think some
Yeah.
level of it is probably reactionary, and this is even something I find myself getting into, where like I'll see comments people will make where they criticize Kris Tyson, talk about the situation, and make broad generalizations. So they'll say things like, I had a few people saying things like, "There's never an excuse for an adult to talk to a minor, even in passing, even if the conversation is not explicit. Adults and minors can never be friends," and that's completely wrong. That's not true.
Yeah.
But I think that doesn't mean that the claims against Kris are like unfounded, given everything we know now, right?
Yeah. 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 So like I know the video you're gonna make is probably gonna be like one of the most viewed videos, right? So in case like you wanted to take some of like what I'm talking about, include it to your own video, add some arguments, detract from some other people making like defenses. I feel like it would ultimately make a better conclusive thing on like how Kris Tyson should actually be viewed, right? Like, I feel like that's the most important part, is to make sure that all the bases are covered. I mean, it's going to be borderline impossible because some people are going to look at the very obvious and glance over the
Because
other
even
stuff
beyond,
that
there's
could
just
potentially
so
be
much. You
yours.
know, I mean,
There is-
I feel like I spent a couple hours going over the logs today, and there's still probably more stuff. You know.
you looked at these logs for a couple of hours, and did you notice that stuff? Like, did you notice the fact that like these minors were potentially like behaving in ways that like Kris Tyson cultivated? To me, this is incredibly damning. Like,
I
this is
mean, Kris
incredibly
was
damning.
Kris was like encouraging it. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Not even just not putting a stop to it, like encouraging it. You know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about, bring to your attention. Hopefully, other people can see that way, see it that way too. Explore their options in regards to covering this, right? Like, it's interesting. It's actually a very interesting development of drama. I want to say it's probably one of like the absolute worst dramas we've seen in a while. And there's so much so many angles that you can come at this that would be incredibly interesting, and it would serve as a lesson to not allow this type of behavior to happen. Because no matter even in other cases, if you were to just go on random Discord servers, stuff like this happens all the time, and people need to be aware of this type of stuff, like no matter how you spin it.
Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah, I agree.
All
And
right.
I'll
Well,
take what you said into consideration for the video.
thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for going on, brother. Take it easy. Corny White MF Doom for 10 says, Tom, do you think that degeneracy such as the situation will cease to happen? We see these cases over and over again, yet nobody learns from the mistakes of others. Why do some think they are exempt? To some level, degeneracy in some way is like almost human nature, I think. Just like temptation and sex and stuff, obviously. The problem is when you have like very sick urges, or your urges override your moral responsibility to do the right thing. That's what's going on here. So will it ever stop? No. As long as there are human beings, and human beings are not robots who are like programmable, that will absolutely continue to happen, unfortunately. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that. Lava came out and walked back their statement, said he didn't realize how bad it actually was. Well, he didn't completely walk it back, but he did say he didn't realize how bad the Discord situation in specific was. Yes, he maintains he wasn't a victim, which I think that's tough at this point, unfortunately, for him. That's tough. That's tough. So apparently Chud Logic called a social worker about this. I don't know if this is a real social worker, but I'm curious to hear what this person had to say.
Okay, listen, Captain C. I tell you what, mate, you've asked a few times to come on, and you say that you're a social worker, which I can't really verify, but why don't you come on and say your piece? Okay, here we go. Captain C. Hello there.
Good evening, you Chud. Good to be on with you. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. So, just to get the...
Now, right off the hop, if you want, I can turn my camera on and show you my diploma of social work if you're unsure about my credentials. I got no issue doing that.
Do you know what? That's enough for me. Your word is your bond, okay? I'll take that for now. That'll do.
All right, thank you very much. So, let's start with, I want to get something absolutely set in stone. Do you understand completely what the definition and, how to say, the checklist of grooming is as it would apply to this?
I think I've looked it up before, but, by all means, please educate me.
All right, so grooming, it's a very, very broad term, but it follows a certain level of criteria that I, as a social worker, if I was assessing a child, would ask them questions and find information about. Number one is who the child is in relation to the person that is accused of grooming them. So in this case, we have Kris Tyson, and I'm going to use Lava as the prime example here. Now, it's what I've noticed that a lot of people haven't harped on, that I really, really wish they would, is the power dynamic, because Lava states that he was a fan of the Mr. Beast channel. He enjoyed the content, so he idolized Ava Tyson quite a bit. So you have to remember yourself in a mindset of, say, you're a 13-something, and suddenly someone who you idolize is engaging with you personally. I mean, like, it'd be like if you were a Marvel fan and suddenly you're getting spoken to by Robert Downey Jr. You'd be going crazy. You'd be thinking this is the greatest moment of my life kind of thing. And that's exactly what a groomer in this situation is going to do. Because in Lava's mind, if I had to hazard a guess, he is thinking that everything he says he's aware of what grooming is and says it wasn't done to him, like textbook grooming victim is going to try and protect their abuser. Because yes, I know what grooming is, but Kris didn't do that. See, Kris is my friend. He would never hurt me. It would always
That's a good point. I think that the contention that I had with this point originally was just the lack of proof of grooming, because at the time there was no proof of Kris sharing porn with this person. There was only weird jokes, which is bad and irresponsible and gross, but we didn't have the Discord logs yet. Now, once the Discord logs came out, it became more clear to me on today's stream what was going on. But, the existence of him denying it was grooming doesn't mean it was grooming. That's all I'm saying. But given everything else we've seen, I think Lava's going to have a very hard time saying he's not a victim. Grooming victims always deny it. They don't always deny it. They may deny it at some point, but they don't always deny it. Maybe in the moment they deny it, but after the fact, a lot of them can recognize what happened, right?
He always has my best interest in mind. He would never do anything that he thinks is wrong. It's that kind of pedestal thinking that this person I hold in such a high regard that I can't rationalize they ever do anything wrong, even though if I separate their identity from what their action, I call their action wrong. It's that warped thinking. Lava is convinced that Kris...
Maybe this guy will explain more, but does grooming require the act of meeting up later in life for sexual purposes, or does it rely on intent to meet up even if they don't meet up IRL? It doesn't require that you meet up IRL at all. People groom kids over the internet and they don't meet up, necessarily. So no.
Is a person that has done no wrong, and up until, I believe recently, based on Lava's tweets, and now that he's being confronted with it, I think that vision in his head is starting to really crumble, which is a big concern in a clinical sense, because that's going to send him down a huge spiral. Once he starts to really understand what happened to him, he's going to go down a very big spiral. about trying to understand everything that happened.
Yeah,
Now,
and
in
I guess
terms of
sorry,
what-
just very quickly, I'm assuming that would
Yeah.
also lend weight to the argument that you shouldn't like come forward on their behalf or do it in like a super public way. You should work with them privately to help them understand something, to help them move forward. Is that right?
Right. In a perfect world, in this situation,
Everyone debates the technicality of the grooming allegations, but I think we can all agree EPI is just as bad, especially in this context. Yes. And that's a fetish that people like the Giggly Goon Clown had, right? Early introduction. They got off on the idea of getting minors addicted to and then that causing them to be trans, right?
it would have been best for him if the allegations say that there.
My opinion is that Mr. Beast knew about it all, but he was more scared of getting canceled and protecting kids. My opinion about that would be that Mr. Beast would probably assume that it would get out at some point, and if he were to let it happen or let it slide, then the risk to his reputation, if he knew, would be higher than the risk of putting it out beforehand. That would be my opinion with that. Richter sent a video called Mr. Beast Knew by Sydney Watson. We'll watch that in a minute.
There was an allegation made that Kris Tyson groomed a minor. It would have been best if Lava was never engaged in the public discourse about it whatsoever.
Right. Yeah.
But
Okay.
paradoxically, him being engaged in it has reinforced the point from the beginning that he was groomed, because he's a victim and he's trying to protect the person who did it, because still in his mind, right up until that point, when he made that first tweet, he thinks that Tyson didn't do anything wrong. He absolutely does not think that. And
So anyway,
and I have to stress, it's no fault of his own. He's just been essentially programmed by Kris to completely think that everything Kris has been doing, all the Discord talk, he rationalized that completely normal. It's just what people do in that space to fit in.
Okay, but wait a second. So you're saying you got some background in social work.
Yes.
How would you feel so comfortable making these claims when you've not even like clinically assessed Lava? I mean, that seems a bit of a dangerous game to play, surely.
I am not going to act. I'm not going to sit here and state that I.
Pokey Princess with the $100. Holy shit, thank you. First time catching you live. Did you hear about the Mr. Beast controversy on his Amazon show? Yeah, we talked about that a little earlier on stream. It seems, I mean, obviously it's allegations for now, but it seems really pretty interesting.
Well, I can write a clinical diagnosis for a Lava. I'm just stating that if you brought me everything that we publicly know right now, if you put it into a file, put it on my desk, told me to read it, and then asked me my opinion, I would say, yes, he is a victim of grooming, without ever speaking to him. I have all the evidence I need based on all the interactions and all the leaked Discord messages. I have all the evidence I need. Whereas, in fact, if I was presented with this because I live in Canada, right? If I was presented with this in Canada, I would be legally obligated to report it to the police immediately.
Okay, and yeah, I guess another question then is: are there cases where you would have to pass something on even when the person is insisting that nothing wrong has happened, like the person?
Imagine how terrible his child would feel when he grows up and finds all this documentation on YouTube. Yeah, man, bro, I feel so bad for Chris's kid. It's gonna be so. Imagine Cody Ko's kid too. I mean, that's a different level of thing, but just imagine, man, it's up, man. Be careful. Be careful with your actions, chat.
Person is
If anything, yeah, great question. If anything, those cases are even more important.
Kid's probably gonna change his last name or move schools or something, because you know, if he's going to school right now, I don't know how old Chris's kid is. I think he's like 3 or 4, but imagine that kid going to school. All the teachers and are gonna know. It's gonna suck.
Important that they are brought forward, because like it's one of those things where it's like say the concept of a mother not accepting that her kid did anything wrong. Even if you can show a picture of of the mother's kid killing another person, they will still say, oh, no, my Jimmy would never do that. So it's the same kind of mentality with the abuser to the victim.
What happened with Giggly Goon Clown? To my knowledge, they were reported to the FBI, and we haven't heard anything since. So they probably are still hanging out in, I want to say it was Arizona, wherever they are. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about Giggly Goon Clown since that happened. What's up, bro?
Can't accept the fact that they are a victim. Can't accept the fact that this person did anything wrong, even though you have the hard, solid evidence like, yes, what they did is wrong. Even the victim says, no, it's not true. At that point, it's not a matter of the victim's wishes. It's a matter of public safety. Because if he did this to him, you can bet your bottom dollar that he's going to do it to anyone else he can get the chance to.
Okay.
What I'm curious about is since this stuff went down, has there been a continuous pattern of behavior past that point of like Kris Tyson doing this? Because like the DMs and Discord server stuff mostly end 2020-ish, right? Is there other stuff? I'm very, very curious about that. There very well could be.
So please continue on. So what are the other things that you're looking at here that makes you conclude that you think this is grooming?
The biggest thing is the desensitization to sexual images and activity. It's the best friggin' example I can think of from the Discord messages. It's pretty obvious that he has been exposing these minors to sexually explicit conversations, images, and topics for quite some time. And that's a textbook, that's almost the second step in a grooming case, because you want them to definitely be desensitized to the idea of sexual conversation, especially with someone who they see as an authority figure that isn't even their immediate family or their caretaker kind of thing. It's the fact that Kris is someone completely removed from their personal circle that he is getting them to be comfortable with him talking about sexual stuff. Not just friggin', they're not getting it from their parents. Kris wants them to be comfortable speaking to her about sexual stuff. That's a key factor in grooming.
Yeah, the pulling them away from their parental guardian and making them feel like they're a more trusted individual, right? That's what this guy's getting on.
Is to break down the wall that may go up automatically when a
And hey, now all those members who got gifted it can access the you can all access the members only stream VODs for the next month and watch streams after they're done. So GG.
Topic is brought up. You take that wall down first, and after that, it's as sick as it is to say, after you do that, the rest of it's pretty easy.
Sure. I mean, I guess just to be clear, I'm playing devil's advocate 100% here, okay? You've obviously heard what I think about this, okay?
Yeah, go off.
But, what about this idea that, some of this is just jokes, or it was like a sign of the times that you do these kind of edgy things where you'd send these images to people to freak them out and stuff like that? Is there not a case to be made that there is a misunderstanding and this could all be explained away by, out of context jokes and so on?
I could accept that argument to a very low extent, to the point of an off-colored joke that would seem completely innocuous. Like, say that if you're 20 years old, you're speaking to a friend of yours who's 15, he mentions, oh, I think my classmate's pretty, and she says, oh, yeah, I bet you'd be great for your purse. Off-color joke may be a little weird, but is that evidence of explicit grooming or intention to groom? I can't prove that it is or it isn't, so I can't really state that it was. What ended it for Tyson in this case is the second images entered this equation is when all pretense of this being just jokes went out the window.
Why does this guy agree with my take completely? Why does my take agree with a social worker? If this is a real social worker, how does this guy agree with me completely? Get Papa Gut on here? Is Papa Gut live? What's Papa Gut's take? Because my take was literally, at first when I just saw the Twitter stuff, I was like, maybe he didn't groom Lava. Oh, he's members only right now? Kris Tyson, because Mr. Reese's Sneako gets blasted when he's critical. It seems like, would he agree with my take or disagree? What do you guys think? What is his take? But once I saw the Discord stuff, it was like it's over for Kris, right? Once I saw that. You guys saw my reaction in real time. What did, does anyone know what Papa Gut's take was? Maybe not. I feel like Papa Gut usually has a good take. He's just fat. But usually when I've seen him, he has a good take. If you want to agree with you, interesting. Has he seen the Discord logs? That's my question. Also, to be clear, I have no verification if this person's a social worker, so they very well may not be.
As soon as you're introducing explicit images to a group of minors, even if at the time you're not maliciously have any malicious intent, at that point, you've already broken the law. Showing pornographic images to a minor, if you're an adult, is against the law to begin with. But at that point, it's going to be rationalized. The only reason why you're doing it is because you want them exposed to it, because you want them to essentially become comfortable with it, comfortable with the discussion. Once they're comfortable with it, then they can start to be more easily manipulated. And the fact that all these people are teenagers is even another sign this is grooming, because teenagers, they're going through puberty, their hormones are going crazy, they're going to be curious, they're going to be trying to figure out who they are as a person. So all of a sudden, they're wondering, I have all these sexual questions, but I'm too nervous to talk to my mom and dad. Oh, wait, Kris is always talking about sex and stuff. I should just go and talk to him about it. Maybe he can give me some advice. You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, sure. Okay. And the other thing as well is, like, in your perspective, do you think this is like, Kris Tyson is salivating at the mouth with these minors and is like, I'm going to sleep with one of these minors? Or could there be a situation where, like, it's a kind of, like, unintentional grooming, or it's like something like that, if you see what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you mean. Again, like, I really don't want to believe that someone can be as sick as Kris is, but I've worked in this field long enough to know that those people exist and they are as sick as you think. To make the argument about whether or not he was salivating, like the intent was really there, if you gun to my head, I would say yes, the intent is there, and yes, he wanted it to end in that way. My main point of reasoning for that is of the Discord messages asking not just Lava but others to meet up with him at various different events, and the fact that Lava did meet Kris Tyson is a big level of concern for me. Now I know that Lava stated he went there with his family, but I dare say that I doubt his parents or whoever he was there with was keeping an eye on him 24/7 the entire time. So I don't think it's inconceivable that he may have had a chance to either meet Kris or meet the rest of the crew without his parents present. But again, like you had said, that's not proven. Do I, in my clinical opinion, think that Kris Tyson is a predator to the point that he wanted a sexual encounter with the minor? Yes, I do.
The other thing about this visit too, this kind of like, oh, my family was there. We don't know the full context of how that came to be, and it could have been that, you know,
B should have cut ties. He could have avoided a lot of headache. I can say that.
Kris Tyson was kind of opening that opportunity up, and Lava was like, "Oh yeah, I can come up. I'm coming with my family." And then Kris Tyson is like thinking he's going to get them alone, and then it's like, "Oh no, that's not going to happen." Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it's very difficult to discern exactly what it means with that, the fact the family's there. It could be that it's all totally innocent, but it could be there was more nefarious intent that was spoiled by the fact the family were present. If you see what I mean, you know.
Okay, yeah, no, and I like the way you're reasoning that, because that is actually my line of thinking, is that if, with all the evidence I have in front of me, I would say that yes, that more than likely Tyson's intent with meeting Lava was some kind of an actual exploit, and that Lava being there with his family, I don't know exactly, because Lava hasn't stated exactly how the interaction went down, whether or not he was like there for a few hours, or was it a quick meet and greet, can't really find out for certain. But the fact that he was willing to go there to meet Kris after all these sexual conversations and all this sexual discussion, I can't completely prove to you in black and white that.
Yeah, fair enough. Right. I have to piss again. I have to piss again. Yes.